It's always hard to be the last speaker because everyone seems to be a little tired and is thinking about going to the party already. Some of you are probably already on the party. So for the beginning, I got some kind of the warm-up, but no worries, you don't have to stand up. So this is like a common Android device. It's Samsung Galaxy S3. And let's say that we got the edit contact screen, right? And I got the contact called Janusz Muchomor, and I changed his name to the Joseph Muchomor, let's say. And then I click on the back button, which is located here. It's not visible probably in the last row because it's like light theme. But what do you think? The question for you is, what should happen with my changes to this contact if I click on the back button right now? What should happen to the data that I typed? Should it be stored? Should it be safe, or should I drop it, or should I display a dialog to the user asking him if he wants to save or cancel? What should I do? What's your opinion? Dialog, right?
It depends on how the rest of the operating system works. If in general, going back in Android save things, you should save. If it pops a dialog, the dialog, or if it discards, you should discard.
That's the very good answer. That's the very good answer. And when it comes to Android, well-designed Android apps tend to store the data, save the data on clicking the back button. So it's not always like just saving data overwriting the previous data, because it wouldn't make sense, for example, for the SMS application. If I write the SMS message and my message is like half done and I click on the back, I want it to be stored, but I don't necessarily want it to be sent, right? So what the SMS app or the Prism client app are doing mostly are storing the message as a draft. But the reason why I ask you this question is to receive an answer like this, that the behavior that needs to be performed after clicking on anything in our application should be exactly the same as our users are used to, right? So if most of Android apps are behaving so, we should behave same, because that's how users are using their phone. So about me, I'm Mateusz Herych, an Android developer at Base CRM, and developer is bold because I want to say that I am a developer. I'm talking about UX today. But my work is mostly coding. I'm not the UI guy. I'm not the guy who is sitting in next to the Photoshop. I can't use Photoshop, to be honest. But I feel that there are a lot of things that UX designers, for example, can learn from the technical people like me. And I'm also the organizer of the CrackDroid conference and co-organizer of Krakow Mobi. I also organize some Google Developers Group meetups in Krakow. Some of you maybe know CrackDroid. Who attended CrackDroid last year? Hands up, please. Oh, some people. You are missing stuff, guys. You should really attend this year. It will be held in December in Krakow. So this talk will be about the Android worst UX patterns and alternatives to those UX patterns. Often when we install the application directly from the Google Play, and this application that's super awful, so you uninstall it like just after a few minutes. And what's interesting about that is that Google Play receives the message that you got that application installed only for like 5 minutes and then uninstalled it, and it's decreasing your score in the search. So if your application is being uninstalled just after it's installed by user usually, then your next user will have the harder way to find your app in the store again. So, well, it's rather good to make a first good feeling. So developers are not dumb, right? I know that socially Programmer is recognized as a person who sits whole day in the front of computer with a big glasses and a shirt. And yeah, maybe it's a little true, but developers know a lot of stuff about UX. Usually, developers are power users of their devices, right? So, for example, I am the Android developer, but I'm also the Android user who understands how Android should work and how Android should behave, and I'm used to patterns that Android offers me more than a typical user, right? So what this presentation is for is to make you realize that even if your team consists from a developers team and designers team, there should be always a dialogue between a designer and developer. Because designers, of course, it doesn't mean that we should fire all our UX designers, because that would be really disaster to our product. But we should really listen to to developers and what they say about how applications should behave, and not only how applications should be coded. So I divided my presentation into 4 points, presenting the 4 of the worst UX patterns you can ever met on Android. And the first one breaks the rule of do not interrupt me. Yesterday, when I was preparing the presentation, I asked my friend, who is also the Android developer, hey, give me a good example of the app that breaks as many rules as you can even imagine. And after 2 seconds, he responded, try Reddit. And I installed Reddit and launched it, and the first screen I've seen is this. I'm not sure if this text is visible to all of you, but what this screen simply is a changelog. So changelog written in a very technical way. Imagine the situation where your mom, for example, installs the app, and the first thing she sees after installing the app is, we fixed the force close caused by WebView plugins in the last version. Cool. What the fuck is WebView? Right? Okay, but I dismissed that dialog after performing a screenshot, and I received another dialog, which is a one-time message, right? It's telling me that I should enable ads and stuff. So after 2 clicks, I'm still not able to use the app. So I was thinking that this is an app on Reddit, and I can disable the app and try another one and try another examples. But then when I was going to close the app, I received the dialog. Do you really want to quit? Well, this is the worst thing on Android. When you click the back and the dialog is presented, do you really want to click? And it's also stupid because I can also use my home button, which can be handled by the application, and then I can close the app using the app switcher. So it totally doesn't make sense to display that dialog. Okay, but interrupting the user is not only about this, and not only about bad design apps. It's also about the apps that most of us maybe, use every single day, and most of us consider as a well-designed and good app. For example, if I click on the file that is being represented by a list item in Dropbox, I'm being presented with a big dialog that prevents me from using the rest of the app. So for example, I cannot simply schedule 5 downloads at a time because I need to download the 2 gigabytes worth file first, which is bad, yeah? And I can always press the home button to move the app to the background, but then I will not be notified after the process finishes. So, well, it's not that good design pattern as Dropbox does. Google is often a good example of well-designed apps, right? But the Google Drive is not. Google Drive does exactly the same thing as the Dropbox, which is the mistake. So, well, you can imagine that this is not the best experience you can get from the app that is responsible for downloading files. Okay, so what is the alternative? What is the alternative for this behavior? And the question for you, what do you think could be an alternative to displaying the big dialog telling user what is the progress of his download? Who is using Android? Oh. Display a notification. Who said display a notification? Yeah, cool. So the solution we did on our app in base CRM is an ongoing notification. Ongoing notification is a type of notification that cannot be dismissed. And it's being refreshed all the time, so you can update the progress. Of course, it's easier to show the dialog with a progress than do this, and starting the background service and sending the messages to the system bar. But it's way better experience. And after my download is finished, I exactly see that it's finished, and I can rely that, for example, I can access it from the web. And what's interesting, Dropbox is doing that for uploads, but not doing it for downloads.
Yeah, but this is the intention. Because I can imagine that Dropbox developers thought that it's storage when you use to view documented files. So perhaps they didn't see a big case of downloading physical items for what?
Okay, but what about downloading a big item, big file, right?
Yeah, okay. That could be the case. But in this solution, you can't cancel the download, can you?
I can, because what we do exactly is, of course, we display the notification in the system bar, but we also stay with a list visible to the user, so he's still able to cancel the download if he decides to not close the app, right? Yeah, I could.
I've seen it a few times in different apps that they enable doing something from this notification.
From the ongoing one, right? Yeah, it's possible. It's one of the way. But the problem with notification is, and why we, for example, shouldn't put the button there, is that the notifications on Android and users are very used to the notification view. And most of the notifications that you see, for example, the Google Play notification or the Dropbox upload notification, they look exactly the same. And users are used to the look of this notification. And they're used to that if they want to cancel the download or the upload, they need to use the app instead of the notification.
But on the other hand, Samsung's telephone program maybe put in the background, and if you pull the notification area, there is a button to end call.
Yes. So what this what?
It's like comparing apples and oranges.
Okay, what we can do is, like, after clicking on this notification, we can display the app and exactly display the list that user can cancel the download. So it's just one click more. And it's not a very common case to cancel the downloads, right? So most typically, if user is scheduling the download, he wants this download to be finished. And he wants to get notified if this download is finished. So yeah, this is point number one. And how to abuse the notifications, because notification is not a weapon that has no disadvantages. How Google Play is showing the notification. Imagine, or just think of the situation when you got the automatic update feature turned on in your Google Play. And then suddenly in the middle of the night, Google Play decides, okay, there are like 40 updates for his apps. Let's update them. And then after you wake up in the morning, you'll see the 40 notifications of a Google Play telling you that Facebook has been updated, Twitter has been updated, and all my apps have been updated. Every single app in the January notification. this makes me just accessing the notification and pressing the dismiss all button. Instead of, we could just show the notification, hey, we updated 40 apps. Yeah, it does? Sorry, Google. Oh, it's great. It was a really nightmare for me. And the another thing is the battery. When we perform my presentation is probably going for 15 minutes already, and I wasn't touching my phone for that time. What do you think? What my phone is doing right now? Is it connected to the Wi-Fi? Okay, Wi-Fi is not a good example because there is no Wi-Fi in this. But what do you think? What my phone is doing right now?
Sending data to the NSA. Sending data to the NSA.
Oh. Except for the core features of Android, my phone is sleeping right now, yeah? And if I, for example, schedule a 2 gigabytes download, and I disable my phone, I turn the screen off, after the 15 minutes, my phone will disable the Wi-Fi connection. Can do it, in case we didn't set something like a wake lock. On Android, we got something like a wake lock, which tells the Android device, hey, do not go to sleep. I need to finish that download, right? What is bad about about the wake locks is that they can become deadlocks, which is when you forget to to free your wake lock after you finish your download process, it will be still there. And your phone will not fall asleep, which means that after 6 or 7 hours every day, and your phone will be without a battery, right? So what I ask you to do if you have problems with a battery on your phone, just to install something like a wake lock watcher to check if any application is maybe performing wake locks and not freeing them. And your phone cannot simply go to sleep. So it's using the CPU all the time. Okay, the point number 2 is make me feel like home. And what is this screenshot? What is the app that is presented here on the screenshot? AutoCAD, yeah, but it's run on Linux, right? So to run AutoCAD on Linux, we use something like a Wine. And how were the apps looking in the Wine? For example, we got a really nice CAD desktop, and then we ran the application using Wine. How it looked? It looked awful. With my big respect to the Wine developers, because their work is super awesome, and they already fixed that. In the past, Windows app run in the Linux run like this. So if desktop apps look different on different platforms, and users are used to the different look of the app on different platforms or even desktop environments, I wouldn't really like the Qt application run in my GNOME in the past. I'm not sure how it's now, but in the past, Qt applications were looking really, really bad in the GNOME and vice versa. So why do people think that we can design the app in, for example, the phone app, deploy it to all possible devices, the BlackBerry, to the iOS, to Android, and it will be okay, right? It will not, because maybe it will look like average on all the platforms, but always users will prefer as for now, the native apps over the hybrid apps. Because the native apps are not only faster, because the hybrid frameworks are faster and faster. The main problem with hybrid is that they do not make use from the platform-based UX and UI patterns. That's the problem. So Android had a problem, right? 3 years ago, it was the era of Android 2 point something. Every single app looked slightly different, right? We got the Foursquare app that has navigation based on the tabs here that look like this, and we got Jak Dojadę app, which looks like totally different. And well, every single app, most of the apps you were installing on your phone looked different. And the problem with Android that was really often mentioned was the consistency of the UX and UI. But it's fixed in Holo, partially from 3.0 and mostly from 4.0. Apps can be designed using the standard Holo theme that is shared, for example, mostly by the Google apps, and users started to get used to that pattern. You should really look at the Holo if you develop Android apps. I'm sure you do if you develop, and just use it. Some people can say that it's okay, but Holo is super simple and buttons are looking like really poor. Yeah, but that's the style of Android. Everything is flat, yeah, right?
The question is that the problem is that Holo is used only on these 4 devices. Everybody else uses Sense or TouchWiz or I don't know how Motorola is, what's called Motoplayer, Alcatel or whatever.
Yes. But most of the apps that are installed on those devices, most of the well-designed apps, like the Google ones or or Foursquare now, or the good app vendors, are using Holo. It's a little timid, and yeah, I agree that, for example, Samsung is or HTC are doing like something really weird things to their launcher UI, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't use Holo, right, for our apps, because even if the main system team, which is launcher mostly, is using another, all the apps, or most of the apps that user is using, for example, the mail app, browser, are using the theme of Holo. So we should really try to make our app consistent with the apps that user is using daily, so browser or email. And yeah, that's like the biggest example of a progress on Android. Back to the years when we got the Android 2.0, every single app had the action bar designed by its own, right? It was like some kind of horizontal layout that was displaying some buttons. Now it's standardized. We got the action bar, and we got the actions that should behave and users accept to behave exactly same in all of our apps. For example, I can rely on this, that if I perform the search, I will get an option to, for example, use my voice to search for something, because it's offered by Android, and we should really use that. And the interesting thing is also that our old Android devices, based on the 2.0, has also an options to use the Holo and the action bar. It's ported using the, for example, action bar Sherlock or AppCompat released recently. We got the Holo everywhere, so we can use Holo and action bar also on our older devices. So if your users, percentage of your users that uses 2.2 or 2.3 is high, you do not have to resign from using Holo and using the good UX practices that Android offers you. Point number 3 is, do not make me feel stupid. Sometimes I install the app and the app has an error, and I'm being presented with such message, right? It's very similar to the Reddit example, because, well, I get a message that I do not really need to read. If there is some error in the background, or there is some error in the task, I should be only notified if it's really, really necessary to me, and in a way that is telling me exactly what happened, right? So I do not need that detailed error. I can just receive the login failure or something. But the best pattern, if we are performing in some tasks in the background that rely on the internet resources, we should try to retry this operation again in the background without even telling the user. In most of the cases, we can do that, right? Because we got the problem because the connectivity was not fine. Who cares about our 500? Imagine the situation when some servers are down, and we are telling the user using, for example, the notification, that every time we perform the operation that fails, we display the notification, hey, something failed. And servers are down for like 3 hours. We will receive the notifications all the time, which is, of course, bad. If something is wrong on the server side, we need to tell the user this in the subtle way. And yeah, those dialogues were often used in the past to let user inform you in email, for example, that something wrong happened, right? So we got the error code, which had like 7 digits. And so users can like copy paste them to our email and tell, hey, something is wrong, here is the error code. But well, seriously, we got the Google Analytics and other tools, like really hundreds of other tools that can automatically inform us that something went wrong with our app, so we can investigate it. And the point number 4 is think beyond limits. There is no one right way when we are designing the apps for Android. There are a lot of solutions that are, for example, designed by the community. This is something called the sliding menu. And sliding menu was designed by one of the developers that is totally not associated with Google. He received for that the Google Developer Relations something title, but the fact is that he wasn't related with Google at the time he designed this. And what's now? And now all the Google apps are using the sliding menu. We got the YouTube that is using sliding menu, we got Gmail that uses sliding menu. So someone was thinking beyond the limits and designed a solution that is probably the most probably the finest solution for navigation on Android. So we shouldn't really stop on the solutions that Android offers us, but we should try to think if maybe we can do something better, if maybe we can do something different. But we need to remember that our users need to use our app, for example, then daily. So what we think is like a new great design really need to be like very well done design. And the same, the swipe down to refresh. This is recently released in the Gmail app, and 8 hours after it was released in the Gmail app, there was already the open source Android library that allows us as developers just to have the same behavior in our apps. And it's also I think it's also the good example of the new pattern that was introduced recently as something new, and that is really well consumed by users. And Android gives you a power, and we need to remember this, that Android gives us the possibilities that, for example, the iOS or Windows 4 are not giving us, but we should use it responsibly, because otherwise, our app will not be usable for our users. Questions? Microphone? Ah.
Yeah, take the other one.
Thanks. You said that we should experiment with different UI patterns, but at the same time, introducing new UI patterns will break the consistency with existing solutions. So how we should approach this